This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread, and today we're going to wrap up our deep dive into business planning. More specifically, we're going to address how planning can help you increase the value of your company. Harvey Mackay said, and I quote, "A dream is just a dream. A goal is a dream with a plan and a deadline. That goal will remain a dream unless you create and execute a plan of action to accomplish it. Every goal that gets accomplished has a good plan behind it." See, Harvey Mackay was correct. He's accurate. Execution of a plan is the key. Larry Bossidy wrote an outstanding book dedicated to getting things done. In fact, he actually called the book Execution, the Discipline of Getting Things Done. One saying which I love in this book is he wrote, "Execution requires comprehensive understanding of a business, its people, and its environment." See, as a business owner, no doubt you have a complete understanding of your company. You probably understand your product and your customer, and I dare say you more than likely understand your team. See, over the past few episodes, we've been diving deep into the strategic planning process, and we spent a few episodes talking about planning methods. Today, I want to create just a short episode to tie everything together. For many, planning is no more than an academic exercise, which happens routinely at the beginning of the year. But friends, planning can be so much more than routine. However, one thing is certain, execution of a plan is paramount. See, so many times business owners will come in, I'll say, "When's the last business plan you've done?" And they'll tell me, or they'll show me in some cases. And it almost becomes a ritual that every year in January or whatever their time is, for my companies it's in July because that's typically one of the slowest times for us. But every year people will sit down and they'll say, "This is our plan." And we spent the last few episodes talking about the need for planning and actually how to conduct planning. We spent a lot of time talking about even the strategic planning process and how strategic planning can drive the value of your company up. Now, I've mentioned in the podcast a method of planning that I personally follow. It's not mine. I stole it from somebody. I want to say I stole it from the book 5 Dysfunctions of a Team or something like that. But I follow the 1-4-12-52 model. 1-4-12-52. That's what I call it. People call it other things. So here's what I say. What I do is in January or in July, in my case, you may do January, I work with clients who have different times of the year they do this. Whatever time that is, one time a year, you're going to meet with your team and you're going to conduct a very detailed planning process. It will include everything we've talked about thus far. It's going to include your goals, your vision, your mission, your objectives, your strategies, your tactics, your action plans. It's going to get your key members involved, those decision makers, the ones who control the momentum of your company. You're going to work to build unity. That's a once-a-year process, and you're going to outline specifically what you want to accomplish in that next fiscal year. So that's the 1. Now the 4, so the 1-4-12-52 model, the 4 is on a quarterly basis. We're going to stop and we're going to analyze how much we've accomplished over our previous 3 months. So if you do your strategic meeting in January, then now come March or early April, you're going to stop and you're going to look at how far have we progressed along to our goal. And then you guessed it, the 12 is on a monthly basis. On a monthly basis, we're going to take and I'd break down the goal into systems that we have to hit on a month-by-month basis. And we're going to analyze and we're going to measure. We're going to make sure we're marching the direction we want to go. Ultimately, we're going to stop and we're going to look at it on a weekly basis. On a weekly basis within your company, you're going to look at your strategic plan and you are going to make sure that every week you're making one move, one bite, one step in the direction you're headed. Let me give you an example. So my company, Heritage Investors, our number one goal, the number one goal for our company in this next fiscal year. So I mentioned we did our strategic planning meeting in July, and we had the whole team involved in this meeting, all 9 players. And we had the 2 different divisions going forward with Financially Simple and Heritage Investors. But what we did is we got the whole team together. We outlined the number one goal, the number two goal, and the number three goal. The number one goal was to involve Justin less. That was the goal. Involve me less. See, as the business owner, so many times we get pulled into everything. Little decisions, big decisions. Involve me less. That's the goal. And it's the team who identify that, Justin, you're going to run yourself out. You're working too much. You're doing too much things right now. We can't have you. This company's not going to grow if it's continued to be built around you. So we have to, quote, involve you less. So we outlined a quarterly goal and a monthly goal and a weekly steps within each of those months. And so now every Monday morning when we have our Monday morning meeting in the office, we are looking to see, did we progress over the last week to help, quote, involve Justin less. So we have things to where the team members are actually taking on some duties that I've been personally doing. We have it where we're using softwares that I'm not having to program, where typically I'd have to program those. We have it where the direction of some decisions of the company from a macro standpoint are being taken care of. Actually, right now we're getting ready to hire somebody, and I'm actually not going to do the hiring process. I'm kind of scared, to be honest with you, as a business owner, to trust the team with this. And I use that word trust because I trust my team, but this is my baby. I wonder if we can hire the right person. Ultimately, I'm going to have the final say, but I've got to trust my team. And if my team makes a good decision, they get the credit. And if they make a bad decision, I get the blame, not them. But that is involving Justin less.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
So I follow in my office, in order to execute the plans that we have, the 1-4-12-52 model. As I mentioned earlier, Larry Bossidy wrote in his book, he said, execution requires a comprehensive understanding of the business, its people, and its environment. The only way we're going to grow and involve Justin less is for the leadership to understand the comprehensive approach of the business. That means that I have to teach my team the business. I have to teach the team the people and how they read the people, the managers of our company. They have to understand the macro environment that we're dealing with, the risks, the advantages, the strengths, the weaknesses, all of the threats that we deal with. They need to understand that. And so using the model of a 1-4-12-52, it allows me to be able to keep my team headed in the right direction. Now, execution is the key. We get that. But let's not forget the reason. The reason why we're doing planning holistically is we want to grow the value of our company. And as you walk through the strategic planning process that I outlined over a series of shows, then you should be making strategic strides in the developing and the development of your intrinsic value of your company. So now we're taking way back, a couple of 20 episodes ago where we were talking about value. And I used the word intrinsic value. That's the value we're trying to grow. See, we can grow top line revenue without planning. That can be done. I see too many people who are successful who never do any planning and their top line revenue grows. We can reduce our SG&A. We can reduce our expenses within the company without planning. That can be done. But we will fail miserably at trying to increase the intrinsic value of our company without a plan. So friends, planning is vital. It's vital in increasing the value of your company. It should not feel like some sort of an exercise. However, maybe you feel like you're riding on a cruise ship versus a speedboat. You know, cruise ships, they move rather slow. We were in the Bahamas and I watched a cruise ship leaving port and it seemed like it was never going anywhere. At the same time, a boat pulling a parasailer came flying by. I was like, dude, that boat's cruising. I'll give you another example. So we have a slow pontoon boat. It does about 20 miles an hour, enough to pull the kids on a knee board and pull a tube behind the boat. One of my buddies used to have a jet ski that would do like 75 miles an hour. And that jet ski could literally run circles around this pontoon boat going full speed. See, I get that planning sometimes feels like we're on the pontoon boat or on the cruise ship. I get it. And oftentimes we want to just jump on the jet ski or we want to jump on that speedboat and just take off and just rip up the water and just dive across and tell everybody just hold on. The problem is planning doesn't work that way. Planning is not typically very fast. It is slow, it is methodical, it is strategic, and it is downright hard. Probably the better way, if we're going to use a boat analogy, would be to have a tugboat. They are some tough beasts. See, I grew up on the small town of Brunswick, Georgia. It was a huge shipping port. My dad worked for the Georgia Port Authority for years. And these huge, I'm talking about massive boats would come in, so large that you could actually put bulldozers in the bottom of the boats and push the grain around. They would load grain. They had huge car ships that would come in. I mean, these boats were 60 foot into the water and probably a good 90 to 120 foot tall. Just massive boats. And this little tugboat would come in and it would just move it around, just push it around. It was like the little engine that could. It would just go in every different direction, pushing the big ship where it needed to be. That is planning. Planning is tough. It is frustrating. But friends, you will not grow the value of your company to the point to which it can properly be valued without following the planning process. The processes of planning, creating action steps and execution steps will prepare your company toward your desired destination and your desired value. It will. Planning will do that. It's no wonder why so many companies are undervalued. It's no wonder, especially whenever you look at that planning, many times for us business owners, are the weakest. It's the weakest point in the business world as well we have to deal with is planning. So with that, guys, I want to wrap up the section on planning. Now, next episode, we're going to begin the deep dive into leadership. You remember, we have 8 points on the wheel. Planning is number 1. Next step is leadership. We're going to talk about leadership, but not in a way you've ever heard. We're going to talk about leadership as a small business owner. When I say small business, I'm assuming the SBA, the Small Business Association's rules and the definition of small business. That's any company with less than 500 employees. So leadership is vital, and we're going to talk about that. Hey guys, as always, today's episode can be found on the financiallysimple.com blog underneath the heading podcast. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter. We just totally reworked the newsletter. We had a lot of people subscribing throughout the podcast and throughout different folks. We don't have a lot of people jumping off, which tells us the content is good. Some of the best writings that I do goes out in the newsletter. We just totally redid it. Check it out. If you're not a subscriber of our weekly newsletter, you ought to jump on there and get it. You know, like I say every week, if you like the podcast, share it with a friend. And if you don't, share it anyways. You know, life is hard. Life is hard, but life is good. Life is good. I got to tell you, I took our dog to the lake for the first time, and my German Shepherd could not swim. It was funny. The dog almost drowned me trying to get it back onto the pontoon boat. So life was hard that day for me and the German Shepherd. I got scratches on my head. My head was bleeding. My legs were bleeding. My belly was bleeding. Oh, my goodness. But life is good. He chilled out afterwards, and he laid on the bench. You know, life can be frustrating, but money doesn't have to be. Hey, let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Y'all go out and create an outstanding day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.